Once upon a time, in a faraway kingdom, there lived a beautiful princess named Snow White. Her skin was as white as snow, her lips as red as roses, and her hair as black as ebony. She was kind-hearted and loved by all, except for her evil stepmother, the queen. The queen was very jealous of Snow White's beauty and wanted to be the fairest in the land. Every day, she would ask her magic mirror, "Mirror, mirror on the wall, who is the fairest of them all?" And every day, the mirror would reply, "You, my queen, are the fairest of them all." However, as Snow White grew older, her beauty shone brighter. One day, when the queen asked her mirror the same question, the mirror replied, "Snow White is the fairest of them all." Enraged and consumed by jealousy, the queen decided to get rid of Snow White. She ordered a huntsman to take Snow White into the forest and kill her. But when the huntsman saw Snow White's innocence and beauty, he could not bring himself to harm her. He told her to run away and never return. Snow White fled deep into the forest, where she discovered a tiny cottage. Curious and tired, she entered the cottage and found it was very small, with 7 little chairs, 7 little beds, and 7 little bowls. She realized the cottage belonged to 7 dwarfs. Exhausted, she fell asleep on the beds. When the dwarfs returned home that evening, they were surprised to find Snow White asleep in their beds. They gently woke her, and she told them her story. The dwarfs, whose names were Doc, Grumpy, Happy, Sleepy, Bashful, Sneezy, and Dopey, felt sorry for her and offered her shelter. Snow White lived happily with the dwarfs, keeping their home tidy and cheerful. Meanwhile, the queen discovered that Snow White was still alive and disguised herself as an old peddler woman. She prepared a poisoned apple and set off to find Snow White. When she reached the dwarf's cottage, she offered Snow White the apple. Innocently, Snow White took a bite and fell into a deep, death-like sleep. The queen, believing she had finally won, fled back to her castle. The dwarfs were heartbroken when they found Snow White. They laid her in a glass coffin in a meadow, where they watched over her day and night. One day, a prince from a neighboring kingdom, who had heard of Snow White's beauty, came to see her. Moved by her stillness and beauty, he gently kissed her. At his kiss, Snow White woke up, breaking the spell of the poisoned apple. The dwarfs and the prince rejoiced, and Snow White and the prince fell in love. The prince took Snow White to his castle, where they lived happily ever after, while the evil queen was never seen again. And so, the story of Snow White and the 7 dwarfs became a tale of love, bravery, and the triumph of good over evil.